Meeting to order, please. And Tucker, we're all good with this? Just, they're all work? Okay, great. They sounds good. I can hear myself. Would you please read the roll?
Yana Carlson.
Here.
Tom Schulte.
Here.
Todd Lavieri.
Here.
Michael Chen.
Here.
Chris LaBrace is here. Victor Alvarez.
Here.
Maria Weingarten.
Here.
Robert Hamill.
Here.
Colin Dobbin.
Here.
James Yao. Nicholas Matrakis.
Here.
Jan Schaefer.
Absent. Okay, we have a full squad?
We do.
Okay. Motion to approve the February 27 minutes, please. Any questions, changes?
I'll move.
Victor, I didn't mean to look at you, but I kind of did.
Well, I didn't like the format, but the content was good.
I picked it up and looked at it and said, oh, no, this is going to be trouble.
Yeah.
We're all good, thanks. A motion,
I'll move.
come, second?
Second.
Victor, all in favor? Opposed? None, okay. It's on legal, that was a problem, right? Was that-
No, it was
Only for
upside
you,
down and
Todd.
backwards.
Yeah.
Okay, so moved, okay. All right, so just to review what we're doing tonight, we are going to go back over where we were with the budget. We have one open item on capo, we're gonna start there, so Tiger, you might as well come up for that. Then Josh, I want you to come up, we're gonna walk through all the changes, make sure we have everything right. Your current budget takes it into all these into consideration, right? Okay, okay. So anything we make, just remind any changes we may make, capital or whatever, we have to make them in the spreadsheet. Then we take a 5-minute break, 7 minutes, I understand. Josh has got to go, just get it all printed out so that Chris can read it, we can vote on it, okay? That's the process. With that, we are back to capo. Well, you have two things, right?
have
You want to
two
talk about
things.
capital? You go ahead.
Yes, so we took a look, to be honest with you, I presented to the Parking Commission last night, and when I was presenting to the Parking Commission, I gave them a listing of all the parking lots that they were, so-called in charge of. And one of them happens to be the lumberyard lot, and that is a lot that we were looking to pave this year out of the $300,000 that we have slated in our budget. So we've got $850,000 slated, 300 was gonna come out of the pool fund, 250 out of the railroad fund, and this other 300 was gonna come out of town-supported capital, but it's technically should come out of the parking fund. So at that point in time, if you allocate that across to the parking fund has just over $1 million, and I think $1,031,000. You allocate that to the parking fund, and while it's still bonded, it's coming out of a different account, so to speak. So it drops the bonded number by about 300,000, or by 300,000. And I did an estimate on those lots already, and that number should hold, should be fine. Yeah.
And
then
you have that right, Josh?
That is in there.
Yep.
So that kind of, drops our overall number a little bit. Well, it doesn't drop the number, it just puts it into a different column, right? So I had that thought last night, so I wanted to bring that to you.
Thank you.
And then I have Mike Murphy here with me
Hi, Mike.
for the NCAF.
are
If there's questions on capo, we're happy to answer anything you have.
One open item on capo, and I want to recognize that Ann is on it, very late evening, was the superintendent's point of view. I want to make sure that we had asked you what your thoughts were as it relates to capo, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but are you supportive? Are you and Jay, thinking this is a right move, good move? I just want to get your thoughts.
Yep, we are. We are. I've been in conversation with Jay about it even today and last week, et cetera, and feel that its proximity to the high school, that it'd be a great asset for the kids, that the turf allows a lot more flexibility as far as playing time goes because of the weather, especially in the spring, and the fact that the outfield will be multi-purpose. Other sports will be able to use it. I think it really is a great asset for our kids. Great
Okay,
opportunity.
I appreciate, I'm sure the process picked that up, but I'm not sure we had heard that. So I think it was important.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think it's
And it's probably worth confirming that in fact, you or Jay or someone was involved and consulted and was part of the process that yielded this design, this proposal, yeah.
Yep, Jay much more closely than me for sure, but between Jay and Bill Egan, and then they were always keeping me in the loop at different times, and yeah,
That's good.
very much supportive of it.
Okay. Okay,
And
so.
thank you for asking.
Yeah, well, thanks, you're welcome, of course. Questions then on Capo? Any, some clarifying items? Go ahead.
I have one, and it, maybe with Brian there, he can confirm it, but we kind of leapt to the conclusion that there was going to be, field hockey practice and soccer practice, et cetera. I'm not sure I ever heard Mike Benevento discuss that in his presentation. It was kind of all baseball. And to me, it's really important that it gets multi-use. So
Yeah, the overall thought all along was to have it be multi-use. I believe Mike might have said it in a different setting at one point in time, but yeah, he's spoken to field hockey and soccer, and the other user groups. And again, field hockey and soccer, overall, from the youth perspective, get the least amount of turf time. So they would be the first ones to benefit from some additional turf, up at Capo.
that's great. Thank you.
Yep. And Jay and I have had a similar conversation just to show that that conversation's ongoing.
And for those other non-baseball uses, that would be for practice, or you couldn't.
For
hold a-
practice.
Couldn't hold a regulation game, but it's a field's available when baseball's not using it for all these other reasons, right?
Well,
Correct.
Keep in mind rainy day,
Yeah, yeah.
right? When you have to change all the schedules around.
Right,
So,
that makes sense.
yeah.
And is it also, Mike, fair to say that the Parks and Rec Commission was involved and consulted along for the design and the project, and they are as well supportive? I mean, it is in Waveney, so.
Yeah, I don't think they've been,
They have been. Yeah.
they understand
They've been-
it, but in terms of, they're familiar with the project and they understand it's going forward. But in terms of, the nuts and bolts of putting the plans together and that type of thing, they haven't been represented in those meetings.
So
Well,
what,
John Howe's been at every meeting, so John's been representing Parks and Recreation as the Director of Parks and Recreation, and then he's been informing George Bennington, the chairman. And then the commission itself is aware of it and is in support of the prospect of having a field there.
Right.
So, in that regard.
yeah, just want to make sure for, all the, Michael had made some of the questions last time about, what it's going to look like. I just want to make sure that people that are charged with that responsibility of what this is all going to look like, what's the vision, that they've at least had an opportunity to be heard.
Correct.
And there's, after all the dust settled, they're supportive as well.
Correct.
Okay. Well, the ask and what's in the budget is 2.5 million. I think there's been some pushback. There's some concerns about that level. Some members are thinking more like 1.5 or something in those lines. So I think we need to coalesce and get some consensus around a number. So for lack of a better process, I'm going to suggest that we think about a $2 million allocation and funding, and see if the board is okay with $2 million for now.
Hey, Todd, I just wanted to say, I'm against the Capo field, and I understand that we're probably going to approve it. And despite the fact that I'm against it, I'll still vote in support of the overall budget. I'm not going to have this issue block have me do a no vote for the budget. But I am against it for environmental reasons. So that's the main reason why the referendum lost in Wilton, and that's what I think is important. There's some information about, like, the NFL Players League. They feel that they get more injuries on turf field, and they want to switch to grass field. Also, the European World Soccer Cup, that's going to be played in the US the next round, and they're going to be changing all the turf fields to grass fields before those games are played. So I just think the jury's still out there about the safety of turf field. Also with the heat, how they get really hot in the sun. I'm just
Yeah,
throwing it
fair.
out there, and I'm good with the 2 million or the 2.5 million.
We appreciate the feedback.
And Todd, I'm in the same place as Victor. I think it's a great thing for the town. I think it'll be good. It's a good addition for the town, but I'm troubled by the artificial surface. I think we shouldn't be adding more artificial surface. I think there's a lot of health issues with it that Victor referred to. But nonetheless, I'll vote in favor of the budget, notwithstanding my concerns about the artificial surface.
No, I appreciate that. I think the the question on the turf, it's gonna have to get addressed, and other departments too that's gonna come up, so.
That's correct.
I wouldn't say it's not our swim lane, but kind of not our swim lane, but it's a concern, and you're gonna hear about it, I'm sure, maybe at town council, and health department, planning and zoning, don't know.
Well, the project will have to go through inland wetlands and P and Z.
Yep,
So, and there's a separate
Right.
turf project in
Right.
front of P and Z
Right.
and inland wetlands at present as well. So this project itself will have to run through that, and we're trying to address some of the concerns already voiced from the other hearings in this project, so we don't run into the same situation. But again, we'll have to go through that with those.
Would you been doing the drainage work regardless?
No,
You wouldn't do it if you didn't have to do the.
would not do
You
it
wouldn't
unless we had to do the
Okay,
field.
Okay.
So that's not required for a natural grass. You know, the current capo wouldn't benefit from that.
No, but if we started to change some of the impervious surfaces there, so if you added, when you add the bleachers, you add some other, pathways, things of that nature, then might start to trip our drainage policy.
see.
But if it stayed a grass field at present, we don't need to do anything at present.
Okay, well, I mean, we're not gonna vote on this as a separate line item, this will be part of the budget, but the question would be, is there consensus around $2 million? So I think right now we have 2.5, so we're gonna change that, we need to make that change. I don't wanna do it.
Hey, Todd,
Yeah, go ahead, Mike.
a quick question. If we go down to 2 million, is the New Canaan Athletic Foundation on board with picking up the additional 500,000? And is our 2 million conditioned on them raising
Yes.
the additional funds? And
Yeah,
how
good-
much
good-
is that amount?
Good question. Can't speak for the foundation, but from a project point of view, like all projects, it doesn't go forward if that money's not in the bank. And all those things will be put in place as it relates to guidance and governance and guidelines and all that. So the money won't be spent until the other monies are in the bank. Can't answer about the $500,000 reduction if it can be value engineered out or whatever the case may be. But I don't know if you want to answer.
No, this is the first I'm hearing of that. So what I would say is value engineering, and, we're committed to the project, and the community has been behind us to this point. So we'll do our best to do what we have to do to get the project done.
Yep. Okay.
So it's contingent on the total amount of 6.5 million, right? That we're not putting the 2 million in unless there's 6.5 for the full project. Is that correct?
Or if they can make it done for 6, right? I mean, if they can
Right.
do it, at a lower price.
What if they can, well, then that was the question I'm trying to get to. What if they can get it done for 4? Are we still in for 2?
No.
I mean, right. I just want to understand the parameters around our $2 million. That's all I'm
Yeah,
trying to understand.
No one's
I would
come
think,
to
I would
us
think
with
they'd
a.
have to put in 4, or.
Right. Well, that's what I'm trying to get to, Bob. They have to put a minimum 4 for us to put the 2 in. Because I'm good with that. If they put a minimum of 4, then we're good for 2.
Right, otherwise.
If it can be
you're
done
doing-
for less than 6, yeah, I mean, I think we should try to get a quality stadium without having it gold plated. So if it's possible to do it for less than 6.5, it should be done.
Yeah,
Although
my
if they have
question-
donors that can come up with the incremental, then that's, why not? That's the beauty of our,
Yeah,
Sure.
but what I'm saying is
Yeah.
they're in for a minimum of 4 before we're
Yeah.
in for 2.
yes. I would
Okay.
think.
Yep. That's
I
my
agree
view.
with you. I would go
Michael,
with
do you think that that's fair of the athletic foundation? Because, if they value engineer it, I think as a community, we're saying we want a varsity baseball field. And I've always believed it's the town's responsibility to provide facilities for the community. And I have every expectation that the baseball group or the athletic foundation is going to try and raise everything they can. But I think this back and forth, I kind of feel like you're already cutting them tonight $500,000 from their ask. And, at that point, I think you as a board should say, we're committed to this project. And, it's going to be a process, but I think we should commit to 2. And then if they come in at 6, then, I don't know. I think you add so many levels of frustration and back and forth with the athletic foundation with this, no, you didn't, you did it at 5. And so we're only going to give you $1.5 million. And I feel like
Well,
the message to the donors and to the community is like that the town isn't in there and backing the project at the level that they committed to.
Well, I would have thought the better way to think about this is we're approving a project. We're not approving an idea. And that project has been priced at 6.5, right? And so we're saying we're in for 2. Now, if you can value engineer down to something that, you don't have to raise any more money, value engineering this project is fine. We're not talking about changing it drastically down to something for 3, and then we're paying for 2/3 of that. Right? We're saying, this is the project, we're gonna approve it. If you need to go out and raise a little bit more money, that's fine. If you need to value engineer around the edges to kind of take it, that's fine too. But I don't think, I wouldn't have thought that we're approving an idea and they can just go up and they have our 2 million. I think there is a project, it seems like a perfectly nice project. To me, they want to value engineer that $500,000 out, that's why they're there, that's their swim lane, that's fine. If they can raise more money and they don't have to make any changes, that's fine too.
In these partnerships, collaborations, we're earlier in the process than we normally ever are. Normally, we're almost last or nearly last. You get the engineering drawings, everything's done, there's a project, there's bids, here's your ballpark of the amount of money and so forth. This is us putting, not on dissimilar to the library in some ways, getting a commitment out there to help the rest of it come together. And so I think that our understanding of what is being discussed is a $6-ish million program project, and it's got a long way to go. We're earmarking $2 million to be ready to fund, but only, of course, it has to get through all the other hurdles, only if the money shows up. Those are the basic things we do with these collaborations, so. Yeah, and if they all come back to say, you know what, we have a great $3 million project. Well, okay, I don't think you really expected us to pay for 2/3. So
Right.
we would have that conversation. It's okay. We could sort that out. So that would be the
Yeah.
way it would unfold. Chris,
Yeah,
yes, sir.
That's
That
how I
make sense,
think about
Michael?
it. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
exactly how Tom and thought about Tom and you. That's the way I think about it.
Agreed.
Yeah, I still have a problem at 2 million on a number of levels. So one of the things I want to clear up is that the last Board of Finance meeting, we talked about these collaborations, and a statement was made that historically we've done 50%. And that may be true when we were dealing with $100,000-ish projects. It's one thing to say, we'll give you $150,000 towards whatever town project there is. It's quite a different story when we're talking about $6 million, let alone 12. And there has to be some understanding that the town is, support for these kinds of projects is not at 50%. It may not even be at 30%. It may be more like 25. And people have to start thinking of that when they come to us with projects. The other issue is that when they come to us with projects, and we said this last year, we want to see these things well-engineered, plans, specs, an understanding of what we're spending, that all of the interested parties, all the stakeholders have had a chance to weigh in on it. We thank Dr. Letzi for voicing the views of the school system. It'd be nice if the Parks and Recs Commission would do the same, because at the end of the day, they are the governing oversight bodies for this. Someone has to be in charge of this project and has to own it from a political and town perspective. And while the Athletic Foundation is a wonderful organization with great fundraising ability, they come as an adjunct to help us develop plans that have been developed by the town leaders and the town bodies that say this is what we want to do. So at this stage, I still wonder if the $6 million project has been thought through that well. I mean, could we get a $5.5 million project, and could we put in $1.5 million of town money? We don't know that, and I don't think you can answer that.
Well, actually, I can. So, but thank you. So first, to kind of speak about the numbers, last year, the NCAF came with a $3 to $5 million number for the field itself. So when I put my budget together, I took the top end of that $5 million and said, it's $2.5 million because that's 50-50, right, on the top end, to be fair. The project was 12. I said, we're still at 2.5. The project came down to 11. I said, we're still at 2.5. The project came down to 6.5. I said, we're still at 2.5. I didn't go to 3. I just stayed at the 2.5 level. And where we are in the project right now is we're past schematic design. We're into design development, right? So you get to schematic design, we get to the point where we can actually develop a very detailed cost estimate. That's how we got to the $12 million. And at that point in time, we value engineered down from there and got down to the $6 million project plus soft costs, $500,000 in soft costs to get us to the 6.5. And then we go into design development. So to try to cram that thing down a little bit further is tough. But in the documents that I presented for my budget, it actually had the plans and it had the detailed cost estimate from the $12 million mark down to the 6.5 from what we had a professional cost estimator to take care of that for us. So I don't think we can, I think they might be able to get another $500,000 and we haven't gone to bid yet. So I'm hoping that in a favorable bid environment, we might do a little bit better, but I can't tell you that it might not go to 7, because it's still, what I'm seeing out there now, it's not necessarily favorable. It's not a favorable bid environment at present.
So going back to what we were talking about before then with questions of oversight, I'm not sure that this, that particular stadium or anything in a project like that should be coming to us through the DPW budget. It should be coming to us by the entity who has oversight responsibility for it. So if it's in Waveney, then it's the Parks Commission, and that they would partner with DPW to do the work for them. And they would partner with the Athletic Foundation to help with funding is fine. If it was on your grounds, it would be the other way around. It would be in the school budget, capital expenditures. So this is a capital expenditure that has it has no it doesn't have a governmental entity support. And so this gives me a great amount of pause on this whole project, maybe not on the project intrinsically, because there's nothing wrong with a good baseball field, but the way that it comes together and the absence of oversight and governance.
So I'm glad you brought that.
Can I answer that for a second? So so by charter, the parks fall underneath the Department of Public Works. They actually fall underneath my title. So as director, I'm responsible for the parks themselves. So that's the reason why I'm sitting here, because and that's why it's inside the parks infrastructure budget. So, and then from the DPW standpoint, from the engineering standpoint, we're tasked with all project management. So that's the other reason why we're sitting, and that's the other reason why we sit at the table for every single design meeting. We've let the NCAF design their project based upon parameters that the town can accept. They went and, brought up this $12 million project because they wanted to see exactly what it would be. And then we said, okay, you can build a $12 million project, but we're going to give you $2.5 million towards it, or whatever the boards would decide at that point in time. And then they decided to scale it back down, and then the town had to accept that as well. And then we made sure that we are making sure that everyone's been involved. Jay's been at pretty much every single meeting, so he's represented. John's been at pretty much every single meeting. And then we've let the commission know, the Park and Rec Commission know exactly what's been happening. But as far as like governmental oversight or what's on that side, that's resting solely on in my purview, so to speak, sitting right where, and that's why I'm sitting at the table. Whether or not you want to take and give, take their budget and say, give them a budget, say, something of that matter, that's a little bit different because that actually helps me because my budget's lumpy.
Well, I think two things to pick up on, and we have to make a couple changes. One of them is there is no set rule for the town's position on any joint collaboration in terms of funding. There's no position. We don't have a 50% or a 20% or a 10% or an 80%. We don't have one. We am I right? We evaluate every one of them as they come, depends on the nature of them and the benefit and all the rest of it.
Right.
And that's what we do. We fund 100% most of the time. That's what we do occasionally. So we're lucky to have these opportunities, but we don't have a set rules. That needs to just get out of everybody's, sense of get reprogrammed on that one. So that's that. And I think you're right. There's that was that urban myth out there on a percentage. And I don't think that was good. The second thing though is I think, and I'd like to evaluate this now before the end of the year to maybe think about this a little differently starting on July 1st. A question for Ann. Should we create a department or a sub-department or something for the New Canaan Athletic Foundation? There's capital, there's operating, there's things that are in there, there's money and the rest of it. I think we want to make sure we have all that visibility and transparency. And I don't think it's that complicated or that hard. I don't know what you wouldn't, maybe you'd object to it, but I think there is a sense that we've got to understand that, and we wouldn't want another one. We're gonna build a hockey rink and it's $10 million and there's gonna be, I think we gotta have a little bit of clarity on how that process works when it gets to us. Because your description was great. That answer was a good answer, but I think that was maybe not very clear to all of us during the process. So 2 thoughts there. Okay. Other comments?
Yeah, look, I would agree, Todd, with what you say. I think there would be a benefit to this board to have the budget for the Athletic Foundation, at least the capital budget for the Athletic Foundation, to perhaps be its own standalone, tab in the binder or some such thing. It's a little jarring to kind of get this between the snow plows and the UV bulbs, right? It's just, okay, well, this is what we're, so, and I do think then, you can wrap your head around a lot of these things, which are, they're important, but perhaps they're not as much as, the snowplow has 400,000 miles on it and it's falling apart. We need it this winter, and I mean now, right? And then there's these kinds of things. So it kind of might help us to kind of conceive of those things. So I do think going forward it makes some sense. There's probably very little sense to have them break out a separate operating budget.
Yeah.
Well, they do have a revenue line.
Well, there's a revenue line, but I think Mike's been pretty good. They're very good in terms of coming to us and telling us where that
Giving us
is
the
and
update,
where those $25 fees are. And I think that will continue to happen. But to try to break out how much of the electricity for running the lights at night, that's probably noise level stuff, and we don't need that level of detail. But I do think there's some advantage going forward to kind of think of this, and then we can kind of all visualize it as its own standalone capital budget, and we can think about it and prepare for that, it seems.
And the Board of Selectmen sent this to us with $2.5 million, and they're the ones that have to face the taxpayers, right, and the voters. So don't forget that.
Well, and I still go back to, I think you need to think about this, that this is a town asset. This is a baseball diamond for our high school, our public high school. We have an obligation as a community to support the assets of our community. Now, we're fortunate to have the Athletic Foundation willing to make those assets even better than what we would be willing to pay for as a community individually. And so, I think people need to be careful about saying, well, we're only going to put this much in it. It's like, well, this is for the schools and it's for the sports that we as a community are supposedly supporting. And, are we willing to support them? And, we can talk about, is it at the 2 million, 2.5 or whatever, but, I think you do need to step back and say, these are assets for our residents that we should, as a public body, be funding anyway. Like, I believe we should have a baseball field on our campus because that's what every other school in the FCIAC has for their high school baseball players.
Yeah, but to be fair, what we didn't hear before tonight was that Dr. Lutzy and Jay Egan were saying they need this as a priority item over a hockey rink, a pool, stands for the tennis fans, or anything else, right? Yeah. So, and again, not really our swim lane, but worth probing, right? In other words, as we zoom out, what else could we be spending this $2.5 million on? I mean, I don't think there's any hesitation. This board's been very good about approving things as we see it for the town, but again, it's kind of coming to us, and we were just simply asking the questions, well, where does this sit in the other needs? And so now we've heard BOE is on board. This is a priority item. May not be the top of the list. I don't think it needs to be the top of the list, but it's a priority item. They've been consulted. They're totally supportive. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, but
The other thing is that last year, when we approved the 2024 budget, the Athletic Foundation said for the following year, we plan on spending $300,000 in capital expenses. And so this $2.5 million number came up in the last 12 months. So it would be nice to get some headway. If you know you're going to be spending 2 or you know you want to build a baseball field, give us a couple of years in advance so we can sort of digest it rather than springing it on us in the last 12 months.
When did they, when
Well,
was the
this is
first
where
meeting?
the absence of oversight comes. There's nobody from, no
Yes.
town government bodies are, you are, but you're not reporting to us that you've had this meeting and we're talking about $12 million and we're going to, that $2.5 million, for instance, never changed. It was always the same number because there's no feedback coming in from the oversight bodies. So some, representative from the Board of Finance or town council say, wait a second, we're not necessarily, if it's just coming down to 6.5, we're not necessarily at 2.5 now.
When did you bring it to us the first time? Did it
Last
come in
year,
May?
it was last year at this time, we gave you a heads up
Yeah.
that it was going to be between 3 and 5.
Yeah.
So at that time, when I developed the budget back in November, I said, okay, well, I knew it was well north of 5 at that
It's been
point
a
in time.
while, Victor. It has
So-
been about a year.
Right, so.
That it was
at-
out there, yeah.
Right.
Well, they wouldn't have
At-
put it in the budget because we wouldn't have approved. It wasn't ready for
Yeah.
this, that's why.
Yeah.
You're correct. It was not in that,
First
if you look at that,
selectmen's
right,
budget,
but when we were here during discussions last year at this time, we were talking about a baseball field saying, hey, just so you know, heads up, next year we'll be looking at that, and because that had just come to fruition. In December of last year, it came to fruition as far as it had always been a thought. We had originally thought about putting a baseball field where the girls' softball field was, let's say 6, 7, 8 years ago. And there was a plan developed and it never came to fruition because of the gas line was in the way and there was a lot of issues with the gas line and turf over the gas line and maintenance thereof with Tennessee Gas. So at that point in time, that one died, but it always was lingering or simmering in the background. And then last December, a group of parents got together and said, we really want to make this happen. And then started the ball rolling. And then at that point in time, we came to you and said, we're thinking it's going to be around $3 to $5 million. But at that point in time, it was just a number on paper. We had just gotten the designers on board, and we had a very small concept plan at that point in time.
Yeah, so it's been about 15 months or something like that.
Right.
But I think for a multi-million-dollar project, the more leeway we get, the better.
I don't disagree. It's just also sometimes these come, they come off, and you have to chase that at
Yeah,
that
but we
point
get
in
a
time.
lot of surprises like that.
Well, that's been coming for 25 years. No.
Good surprise.
That
It's
had
a nice
shelf life.
surprise when
Movie
you get a
theaters.
$4 million gift.
Yes.
Yeah, that's,
We need more positive surprises like this.
yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah,
fine.
but it came with a $2.5 million price tag. So,
Well, I think the governance point and the communication, we got to clean this up. That is not where it needs to be. And I think we need to dispel the rumor we'll do 50% no matter what. Okay, so I think the way to do this, team, is to take, I'll call it the non-binding straw vote. I need to know if we are supportive of, and again, I'm going to put out 2 million out there as a suggested number and see where people stand. And then we can decide whether we're going to include it or not. Okay? Because we're not going to hold the budget up for this. Either we're in or out. I think we want to be straight with everybody, including donors, right? So I'm just going to ask for the non-binding straw vote for those in favor of supporting $2 million for the Capo field. Could I see a show of hands? And you're an alternate, right?
Hey,
Yeah, okay.
hey,
Okay.
Todd, I'm supportive 2 million up to 33%. So if it's a $6 million project, I'm supportive. But if it's less than 6, I like the 33, that what Chris DeBree says. It's a percentage, not just 2 million if the project isn't the project. So
Again, we've got guidelines that have to be drafted. This is a placeholder in a budget. There's a long road to go, but I think it's great to put it on the record. We're up to 2 million with guidelines, and some of these guidelines have to be spelled out. I think you're
yeah,
absolutely spot on.
I would support this project with the caveat that we have strong guidelines, a change in the governance and oversight. And I would like to hear the Park and Rec Commission at the town council
That's a good
meeting,
idea.
do the same thing
Yeah,
that
that's
Dr.
right.
Lutzi has done here and say, oh yeah, we've been involved, we've
we
looked
can
at it.
facilitate that.
We think it's the best next thing
Can you do that?
For Waverly
Yes.
Okay.
Park.
Yeah.
Tiger's
Okay.
got that
Right.
to do for the town council.
All right.
Okay.
Right, next
Okay.
week, we'll be in front of the council next week, next Thursday.
Yeah, so you give, it gives you a week to round up the Parks and Rec Commission.
Right.
Okay. All right. Any other discussion? So I think Josh, I think we're good.
Okay.
Josh, I think you're, yeah. Oh, you're not going away. You're, no, you can go ahead. Josh, why don't you come down and walk us through the changes? I think we need to get everybody comfortable with where
Thank
we
you.
are. Yeah, thank you both. Where we are, and then we can finalize the numbers, print it out, and have a vote. The discussion.
Blow it up.
No, that's important. There you go. So everyone should have this one page? One pager, please?
The one pager.
One page.
It is on the tablets, but I can share my screen.
Unreadable.
Also. Yep. Sorry. The more changes you make, the smaller it gets.
So I mean, if I'm reading this right, the net of this is, we took out about 1.4 in expense, added about 1.4 in revenue, and reduced the capital by 8.5 plus 500 more.
Plus 500 more. Yeah, that's correct. I did move for
Not to cut to
Capo.
the
I
chase,
moved the
right.
500 from bonded into other, so it remains at 6.5 unless you tell me otherwise. That way there's more leeway.
What's 6.5? 2.5?
Two
Yeah.
for the town side in
Yep.
bonded, 4.5 in the other.
Yeah, I don't
column,
think we don't have a better number than that today, that's for sure.
Just keeping
No,
it-
That's right.
as flat, basically.
You are with that? That makes sense, yeah. Okay. Go ahead, Josh, you can just,
Sure, I'm just making that change right now. All right. So, we kind of went over these yesterday, I think, but the major drivers, of course, are the effects we've had on tax-supported capital, bringing that from 1.9 to 3 by bundling things for bonding. That took it down about $1,000,007 or $1,070,000. Utilizing bond premium for fund balance for some of the projects, $75K, $300,000 for tax-supported capital fund balance, almost $200,000 for extra duty fund balance. The changes in debt service was about $456,000. The additions to human services agencies, I think, netted to be about $25,000. The Board of Ed came through with about $500,000 in savings on their operating, split between their operating and their ISF transfer, with the addition of $68,000 for the guidance counselor at Saks. Social worker, sorry. There you go.
really important difference.
Let me just put-
Josh, you said 500,000, but this only adds up to like 420.
Let's see. It should add up to 432.
Okay,
So that's a 68,000 for the social worker at Saks.
right. So it's not 500,000.
It's right.
Well, we asked for the, well, actually, though, I think that's right on the Board of Ed side. We asked them to take that position, but wasn't there a reduction on the Kids in Crisis line item?
That was already
HS,
That was already out,
that was
okay.
already taken
I
out.
got you, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There was
stuck it on
the,
that
on the
rabbit hole.
revenue side, the increase in bond premium from 500,000 to, I think it was 1961. It's this minus 60,000. Yep, 1961. 60,000 is in there from the dog fund transfer in. On the capital side, there's the Nature Center, the Audubon The Audubon House and the Visitor Center, the greenhouse, those moved to demolition from repair. UV replacement went from 6.5 to 4. Dunning went from 2 to 0. Waveney HVAC went from 4 to 0. Sidewalks went from 500 to 275. And this should
Sidewalks?
say-
No,
Capo.
750.
750?
750.
Yeah.
750. Sorry, that was a test.
Wrong way.
Tom didn't react. You almost had it. I mean,
And Capo went from 2.5 to 2. And so on the capital side, the bonded side rather, that's 9 million plus that got shaved off. And on the operating side, the net impact is about almost 3 million. It's
Yeah,
2.9
that's
million
real.
to the good.
wow. Well, good work, team. Feedback, anything we missed? Anything anyone can?
So you said you already took out the 300 that, for the parking lot
Yeah.
before we got into tonight? Okay.
Yeah, I think
Can you think
we
of anything
have
else?
been paying those out of the parking fund for the past couple years. When it builds up, that's, I guess, what they use it for, so it
Yeah,
goes
I
back
just want to
down.
make sure it's out of his
And I think-
budget because it was in his budget.
Yeah,
Where-
it's, yeah.
So what's the magic number to be raised from taxation?
Does that sheet tick and tie to this sheet?
For taxation, yeah.
taxation.
The only thing that's not included in that is the capo change,
Which
which
doesn't impact
doesn't,
that.
which doesn't impact it. So,
Doesn't
yeah.
impact
So that is what it
You want
is.
to move to that then? Because
Sure.
why don't you walk through the summary, Michael and Bob, we're going to move to the,
Wasn't the Board of Ed just added though, like reduced or added? like-
I had that already in there. That's
Oh,
baked in.
He's way
we're
ahead of you.
quick. So
Okay.
the,
It's in the sheet.
this is the expenditure, this is revenue and expenses, the one page, print on both sides. This, so if you want the punchline, go to the second page.
The punchline for the amount to be raised by taxation is 159.2, or 6% year over year.
I see 158.6. Am I reading that right? Okay.
Nope, it's one category up. It's 159.2.
Oh, I see.
Peace.
Don't scare me like
course.
that.
Yeah, amount to be raised by
Because that's the 98 and a half.
Yeah, it's at the top
Right.
list.
Is the grand list, oh, the grand list isn't 10 billion. That's why.
So this is
Bob?
all before the Board of Assessment appeals as well, so we'll likely see a slight reduction from
It
the
should have been
9.9.
your answer. Like you kept saying this on Tuesday night. I think, what is he talking about? If we do 158, 159 at 10 billion, my third grade math teacher would have said that's 15.8 or 9 or whatever.
Yeah.
But no, it's not 10 billion. It's
We're
9.9.
at 1606 if we do this. So how much would we need to go to a 15 handle on
How much would you need from here?
somewhere?
Grand
It-
list.
More
I mean,
revenue.
Is the
from
grand list
general
gonna,
fund.
with Tucker, do you have a sense, or do you have a sense? It came down $100 million.
I
It's
mean,
not
you-
nothing.
Yeah.
Are there any additions
No,
to the
it-
grand
it-
list as a
I'm
result
working
of
versus
new houses coming on and
I
condos?
think from here, it's likely only going to go down.
It's only going
Is
to go
this
down,
about the
but how
number?
much? I mean, a couple hundred.
9.9?
Yeah, well,
Probably
and, you know, we're still going through
couple
the
million,
VA's
yeah.
Couple
appeals,
million.
so we won't know for,
yeah.
they have
So
through the,
that's,
yeah.
that's
And
interesting.
there's no new
of appeals?
entities that we can tax, no new
That I
condos
don't-
or?
I'd have to check on
Yeah.
that. To get to 15
digging.
though, to get to 15, it would be 2.9 million that you'd have to find, about.
Can't believe that dropped $100 million. Well, it doesn't change the amount raised by taxation, which is really all that matters. Mill rate is just a factor, right?
Right,
You
mill
know,
rate's a
So it doesn't
factor.
change anything.
It's a
but,
headline factor, but it's just a
More
factor.
people are
Um,
concerned about the percentage
yeah.
The percentage of what, increase?
increase. They don't really care about the mill rate. They want to know what the percentage increase is.
Well, it will be a
The
decrease,
The
actually.
percentage
Mill
is
rate.
The mill rate's
minus
gonna be down,
14%.
No, the mill rate will, but the
14%.
percentage.
Yeah,
increase
no,
won't.
6%.
Their
yeah.
taxes will go up.
Yeah. okay, what?
Yeah, that's right, that's right. Well, this goes to the town council. They've got their swing at it still, and we've got a, but,
Right, but. they-
It's $3 million
really,
that we
they
took
would
out. Let's
prefer
not-
having a final document.
let's speak for them. Bob, Michael, any comments?
Can you just scroll down to the bottom? I was looking at the bottom, right there, yeah. So it's 161 is what we're gonna collect by 98.5%. We're at 158,610, is that correct? And then you add in the 625 to get to the 159 number?
Yep, that's these two together, correct?
But if we get 100%, we'll get the 161, right? 025? That's at the 100% rate?
I believe so, yeah.
Well, no, it's at the 99.7 rate.
So it's the 161 is just the 158 times the 98.5. So
Oh,
it's
wait.
just this part, it's not including
Yeah,
the,
but
January supplement.
right, no, but the 161 is at what collection rate? 99.7?
98.5.
No, isn't that the
Oh, sorry,
158?
that's this, right,
Yeah,
you're right,
right.
this is at 100, yeah,
Is
essentially.
it 100 or 99.7? Because there's collections, the estimated collections rate. Is that 100% or is that 99.7?
Let's just see by changing this to 100.
What?
Yeah, so that is, I believe that is at 100%, not 99.7.
Okay. So, okay, so we have about 1 million, 2 million,
2
and
million.
2 million in buffer there. Okay, that's what I was just checking on.
2.4.
Yeah, 2.4, but we only collect 99.7. It's probably closer to 2 million, right?
Got it.
That's right.
So of the 5 million that we're going to take down from our drawdown, it's really be 3 is what we're really projecting to take down if we hit our collections rate. So we'll be at 20.
And all of the
Yep.
revenues. You gotta
Right.
hit all those other revenues, right? And we've been running
Right.
surpluses on the revenues. That's why we don't draw down 5.
Right.
Right.
Right. So we could be less. So we're at 26 million, 5, 21. So we'd be at 20, probably 24, 25. Okay. I'm good with this. Thank you.
Wasn't there an open question from Tuesday about what percentage of the total fund balance should we have in terms of keeping our AAA rating? And I guess my question is there room to go beyond that $5 million fund drawdown and do something larger?
That's, well, 2 questions there. Yes, there is a guideline, which is, we've told Moody's, correct me if I'm wrong, Ian, something in the, in the mid-teens as a
Right.
percentage of our budget.
Yes.
Your question is what we resolve in May or June. And the reason we have to wait, because we don't know where our expenses and our revenues are going to come in today. But in May, we're pretty good and we have a really good sense. And in the previous years, we've had $1 million or 2 excess of revenue. We've had, we underspent something by $500,000. Tiger didn't do something. We were able to avoid some costs. That gives us confidence to make that number maybe a click higher or a click lower, depends. That's in May.
But wasn't there a question about, what is the basis of the numerator and the denominator in terms of what other
That's the
towns are
fund. Yeah,
doing?
we got to be careful. Yeah, well, I won't say anything publicly. And what your thoughts,
Yep.
we really need to get clarity on what is the all-in fund balance that we have in this town. Not this bucket or that bucket. I mean, what is it? Because that's what we have to really evaluate and look at.
Yeah, we have the fiscal year 23. We could just bring it forward with some estimations because capital is going to be the main swing now that we've bonded. And then it'll be up to what you're going to use in May for the fund balance. So I'll put all that together.
Yeah, that's where the rubber hits the road for us.
Yeah.
When we finally make that decision, we need that number to make sure we're staying compliant with, in the strike zone of the Moody's number. And it's in the mid-teens of our budget.
Right.
That's really the way
And
to look at it.
and there were, I think, to Victor's point, there are component parts of that, where there's the assigned, there's the unassigned, and then what we're hearing
Yeah.
from the Moody's discussion is that in certain circumstances, we can consider, for purposes of thinking about these things, everything and all of the enterprise funds and everything, right?
Yeah.
Not just what we think
That's
of
right.
as our
Right.
general fund.
That's right.
balance. Yeah.
We
And
have.
that breakdown will be very helpful when we
Yeah.
make that decision.
We've talked to other people about, for example, the sewer fund, and everyone's amazed we have a $2 million reserve fund. Well, why would you do that? Well, because it's going to need to be replaced. So we very prudently put money away, so when it happens, like it is, we don't get stuck with taxpayers get stuck with a $6 million bill, it's a $2 million bill or a $4 million bill, whatever. Same thing with the pool, has $1 million in it for deferred maintenance. Those are the things, but we haven't not traditionally added those. They would say, why wouldn't you add those? You don't need to have any of those things. That's your decision. So you could put them in an unassigned general fund, or you can do the way we manage it. We've opted to manage it that way because we know it's a nice way to protect the actual thing happening. But when it comes to the math for the number, we have to include it. And so that's what Ann's going to do for us.
Yep.
Is that fair? You get that?
Yeah, we should have
that clear?
a list that shows us assigned and unassigned
Yeah.
fund balances.
Yeah.
We used to do that.
And remember,
Well, I
as an
think we did it
example,
in May.
we do it in May.
Yeah,
We did it
in
in
May,
May.
we
Yeah,
did.
we did.
Every year
We
we do.
totally, we absolutely did it. For example, we know we are going to get $2.4 million more in taxes.
Right.
We've assigned that to us. In other words, part of the 5 million we've assigned to
Into-
the town of New Canaan
Yep.
to pay ourselves back. As being prudent, but, when we get to these metrics, it matters to get it all in there now. So that's what we have to make sure we have in May. Okay, good question.
Another question I have is the Internal Services Fund. When the consultant came in and was telling us about it, he said that if there was any overage, we would draw down from the reserve. Do we have a forecast for what the reserve will be in the 2024, 2025 fiscal year?
I have an estimate of where it stands right now, on both the Board of Ed and the town, so I can get that number to you. And then I'll get the latest claims, because usually February, March is when it changes a little bit with some stop loss, so that can have a different swing. But I can definitely give you those breakdowns, those estimate breakdowns.
Let's be clear. Are you asking where we are now? I think the budget's,
What
I
do
think
you
it's
think?
fine. But are you talking about it for the budget next year?
So I'm talking for the 2024, 2025 budget.
Yep.
Where is our estimated reserve going to land? We've moved the ISF up.
Yeah, yeah. I think
Yep.
you want an answer from the superintendent. You've funded it as sort of per the guidelines.
Yeah, when we built the budget, we did project out where we anticipated we'd end the year, so that the budget is set to fully fund the claims, do everything we have to do, including setting that reserve at the 8%, which is that, 40% of the corridors we've talked about, whatever. So the budget was set to fund that reserve at the 8% that we've talked about.
Okay.
So if things change along the way, we have to adjust and whatever, but that's where we build the budget. That's where that number comes from.
The only thing might be stop loss. We're going to put that out to bid. There might be something that we don't know, but remember, that was all about, we may learn something in May. As it gets closer to their September, which was their actual year for benefits, is September to September. It's hard for us sitting here in February to be that sharp about what's going to happen.
Right, so we build it based on the
Getting a
projection.
little closer, and we'll get a little bit, well, now what happens in the case of, if we got a new bid from Voya or from a competitor on stop loss, would that impact your, and you wanted to make a change, is that something you would do?
We talk about, we could, or again, that would go into the ISF, that'd be available then in the future, because as you manage, that's one of the advantages of the fund. So we'd have that conversation and make the decision
You
together.
might not have an answer
In May,
time.
we
You might have an
should.
answer. Okay, all right. Well,
We should.
We should put it
We'll
on.
also have another couple of months of claims under our belt that we can take a look at.
Okay.
And we are meeting with Joe, just as a follow-up. I know one of the things we talked about, and there was some interest from the Board of Finance, was about some other creative mechanisms to try to figure out how best to manage the high-dollar claimants.
Yes.
So we're meeting with him in a couple of weeks. He's going to come down again, and we'll continue that conversation. We'll keep you in the loop.
That was because
Yeah.
we wanted to hear that if there was a way to change those thresholds, that has an impact potentially.
Yeah, so we've been talking for about a year and a half or so, Joe and I and Sean and others, about, what can we do, and are there other mechanisms that we can sort of consider at least around, again, the ISF gives you some advantage, and with the stop loss and the premium versus could you reduce the premium by raising the amount and using your excess reserve to buy that 100,000 band. So we're gonna model some of that out, and we'll loop back to you and talk about it.
Just in terms of a budget process perspective, Ian, let's play that out a bit. We can approve the budget as it is right now with all the assumption you've made. Got it. But What if through that exercise, they come back and say, you know what, we can change these 2 or 3 things. It makes some sense to us. You're comfortable with it. We made an assumption. And by the way, that's a $300,000 savings next year. I think they can reduce their estimate in May for the budget, right?
Town council would have the ability to do that, make that cut.
They might not know it. They're going to
They
vote
may
on
n-
it
if they-
before they
if-
would know.
If they don't, then it would be a savings through the budget where the ISF contribution could be lowered. So the savings stays in the operating fund and goes back to the general fund.
Okay.
But the
Yeah,
budget, once
there are
it's
mechanisms.
approved, is approved.
Right, it's
So
the
that you'd get a
appropriation.
surplus that you could, it would benefit you
Right,
in
it
some
would,
other
it would
way.
just work its
Okay,
way
all
through
right,
the
I'm okay with
system.
that. All right.
One way or the other,
Oh,
right?
I'm okay, that's
Because,
good.
right,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And-
Budget it differently.
That's good.
Right, again, that's the advantage of the ISF, and that actually may, if we were to get there, might be some funding that's available then to do some creative
I
things with
like
the
that.
ISF and the, and that stop loss.
I'm glad that's right.
Yeah, that reimbursement corridor differently.
Thanks for that follow-up.
But I love the optimism, by the way. So.
Okay. Other questions? I think we have everything. Okay, so do you have everything?
Yeah, I just need a couple minutes to
Okay, so
get it together.
5 minutes, we'll get the numbers, we'll go back and we'll read them by department.
So before he goes,
Oh, one more question. Columbo,
do we have,
one more thing.
one more thing.
We'll get
Do
there.
we have, are we comfortable?
Mike.
Are we comfortable at the 159.2 number? Is there, we would need $730,000 to try to,
Well, if you have a revenue idea that you've been holding on back on us?
where's Andrew?
Let me buy some
I mean,
Bitcoin.
it might still make a difference, because if the assessments are in the reval still come lower.
Well, no, I assumed a couple of $1 million
Oh, you
less
assumed
on the reval, and so that's our number,
9.9
730.
stay.
It would bring the budget increase under 6, and it would bring the mill rate accordingly down. But
The
that's
easy
a-
answer
that's-
is to
that-
add
That's
to
a
the.
half percentage.
Yeah,
That's a lot of money.
That's true. Look, the easy answer is to add a little more to the drawdown. I'm not there. I think we got to see the numbers before we could do
No, I
that.
don't think
Yeah,
so.
we
So
can't
that's
agree
off
to
the
that
table.
until May, yeah.
Revenue. I don't think you've got anything left.
Yeah, this may
I
have
don't
to,
think these are good assumptions. I don't think we want to be, this is where we want to be conservative on revenues.
yeah, no, we don't want to overstate the revenue.
Careful, I should say.
Yeah, look, if we want to be a little bit more generous on the drawdown from the general fund, we'll know that in May, but we can't project that until we get the breakdown from Ann.
Now, one question, we do have an $300,000 recommended for tax collection for prior years. It's kind of like the standard placeholder for us. We had 500 one year, 400, almost 500 one year. What's overdue? That's the most important question. Do we have a sense in terms of what's overdue?
It's a good question.
Because
I think
if
we
it's
had
$2
looked-
million, that maybe 300 is too conservative. If it's
don't think
250,
I don't think it's as high as 2 million. I'd have to check on that.
yeah.
About-
I know
Go ahead, Dan.
It's probably about 1.2 or so right now. And then it depends. Real estate is the one that holds it up. And then depending on the level of where that real estate claim is, with collection is where that swing happens. If something closes or it gets trued up in a year, and that's where the swing happens. So they're in different forms of collection on the real estate.
Is that higher than usual, 1.2 million, or is that about what we run?
Well, usually because of cars, that's the hardest one to collect. So by the end of this year, we'll probably come in around, because it was 1.2, we'll probably come in about 1 million. And then the first July and August of the next year is when we start seeing some of that come back with the new statements going out.
Yeah.
So you tend to set this at 20% of the delinquent amount?
Yes.
It's
Uh,
a big di- Yeah.
I don't know. I'd have to
Yeah,
look at the
no, I
number
see that. I
offhand.
mean, that number is different than, the 300 is conservative, but you know what?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
I
want to
think
play for
this
a
year
couple
we're
hundred thousand.
Yeah,
a
okay.
little
No, it's a
lower.
good question, though.
Yeah.
You're good to push us.
Yeah, we'd have to see
All right.
how much is out with collections.
Look, we'll get surprised in a good way.
Okay, we are where we are. If we get a little bit more, good for us. That'll be
We'll-
for
we'll-
go in the kitty and we'll use it next
see
year.
where we are in
Yep.
May or June.
Okay. I think we're good.
Sure.
All right.
I'll be back.
Okay, thank you. And you ready for, so we'll take, guys, we'll take about a 10-minute break. Bob, are you guys on? I see Bob.
Yep.
Okay.
I know Michael's there.
And you can hear us okay, Bob? Because we're going to go
Yeah,
one item at a
tonight
time.
is a big improvement, to be honest.
Okay.
Great job, Tucker.
Well, good, because you're voting on $175 million.
Okay, Michael's back.
Okay. With that, we've got, I think, any questions on what was given to you? If not, I'd like to ask Chris to please read the budget.
Board of Finance Budget Regular Meeting, March 7, 2024. Approval of the proposed 2024-2025 fiscal budget. General Fund. Total town budget, $42,237,866. Total Board of Education operating and health insurance transfer budget, $109,395,488. Total Board of Education expenses paid by the town budget, $287,730. Tax-funded capital budget, $384,325. Debt service budget, $18,914,275. Non-wage contingency budget, $350,000. Total library budget, $2,898,590. Transfer and outside agencies budget, $852,000. Total general fund operating expenditure budget, $175,320,274. May I have a motion to approve that budget?
So moved?
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Guys,
Michael?
I'm
Yep,
Bob?
I'm in favor.
Aye, yep.
Okay,
All opposed? Any opposed? Abstentions? Okay,
so moved.
so moved. General fund non-tax revenue budget total, $11,084,792. May I have a motion to approve the budget?
So moved.
Second?
Oh, I'll second.
Call. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Fund balance contribution total, $5 million. May I have a motion to approve that budget?
Moved?
Motion.
Second, Michael?
Yep, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Amount to be raised by taxation, $159,235,482. I have a motion to approve that figure.
Motion.
Michael,
Second.
second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Property tax collection rate, 98.5%. I have a motion to approve that number.
Motion.
Maria,
Second.
come.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Sewer operating and capital fund. Sewer fund operating expense budget, $1,919,820. Sewer non-bonded capital budget, $825,000. Total sewer fund expense budget, $2,744,820. May I have a motion to approve that budget?
I'll move.
Bob, second.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Other funds. Parking fund revenue and expense budget, $135,000. Railroad Fund Revenue and Expense Budget, 168,000. Rental Property Fund Expense Budget, 40,000. Rental Property Fund Revenue Budget, 15,000. Steve Benko Fund Revenue and Expense Budget, 585,415. Movie Theater Fund Revenue and Expense Budget, 125,000. Recreation and Wedding Fund Expense Budget, 1,363,499. Recreation and Wedding Fund Revenue Budget, 1,359,580. Total Other Fund Expense Budget, 2,416,914. May I have a motion to approve that budget?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Total Other Fund Revenue Budget, 2,387,995. I have a motion to approve that budget.
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Projects to be funded by tax support totaling 384,325. Projects to be funded by bonding totaling 20,756,729. Projects to be funded by other sources totaling 6,664,997. Approval of the fiscal year 25 capital projects as per the 5-year capital plan totaling 27,806,051. I have a motion to approve that number.
Motion.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. This completes the approval process by the Board of Finance for the proposed 2024-2025 fiscal budget. The recommendations for appropriations as approved by the Board of Finance will now be delivered to the selectmen for submission to the town council. The selectmen will also cause to be published once a week for 2 successive weeks a notice of a meeting of the town council to act upon such recommendations.
Thank you very much. Well done. Okay.
Good.
No other business? We'll have a motion to adjourn. Great work, everybody. Motion, Maria, second.
Aye.
Second. Chris, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, none. Thank you. Hey, Michael and Bob, thanks so much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.